your main role in the Army? What was your position?
Well, I was never an officer of any sort. Secondly, I was like a radio operator. I had my own radio. I had a fellow drive me, and with the sergeant and two other men all the time. That's the best I can tell you. Is that enough?
Yeah.
Say so now, because if I cut you short, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah.
But if you need some more, yell at me somehow. I've only got a couple of good ears left, that's all. Yeah.
Can you describe some of the conditions you experienced during your service?
I can't hear you, dear.
Can you describe some of the conditions you experienced during your service?
Well, I tell you, I got different notes written down here now. No running water, of course. And when we're in it, it's conditions are wet, of course, and then what do I say? Washrooms, there isn't any type of thing. Food was good, but when we got it, that was the part that really hurt some of us, because when you get into action up on the front lines, there's no way they can get food to us. Consequently, as we had to wait till we went back. And if you go back, and then you might get the food within 5 hours or maybe 10 hours before you get the food to you. Again, you're still waiting all the time to eat. But we used to get used to, we used to carry some good stuff with us, that like a chocolate bar or something of that nature, that would keep us up a little bit, so the food started to come. Any other questions now?
How long were you stationed in Europe?
In Europe itself, now, that takes in a big lot of territory. I actually started in Africa. First Africa. Nobody ever mentions Africa. I don't know why. We were there for quite some time. And just about 30 miles north of the equator is actually where we were. And in Europe, we went from South Africa, the lower part of France, not Italy, but the island beside Italy. Sicily, yeah. Sicily, and then into Italy. We got up pretty high, and we just got 30 miles and then Rome, and they stopped us. We had to let the Americans take Rome. We had to back off and make another trip by boat to southern part of France. And then we went in at France to keep going. It's something that I never could understand, why they stopped us and let the Americans take it at that time. But that's neither here nor there. That's what the government wanted, I guess, as far as the big shots wanted. It hurt us pretty bad. We do all the fighting and all that kind of stuff until we get there, and then they cop us. Said, no, stop. Let them in and let them take it, then we go on down the other way. Well, we work ourselves into France at that time, and France was, well, they'd given up to the Germans at that period, before that, of course, and we didn't know how to expect them. We didn't know whether to treat them as allies or just be careful, that's all. You had to be in time. But the biggest shot that hurt us pretty bad, and we didn't know which way to go. Any other questions now?
When you were not fighting, what did you do to pass the time?
Well, 90% of the time what I was doing was writing letters, of course, to my mother and father at that time, and my girlfriend. And then we'd get sent to some place for medical checkup. We found out where the bath station was, which was a big trailer. So we have a bath and things like that. We get the clothes changed, all back in the rest area. Up until then, we had nothing, actually speaking. We had good food then days, too, when we went back to get it. But it was something that we could never understand. It was always there, but we were always late getting it. Food I'm talking about. But luxury like that is something else. Now, is there anything else?
Have you ever revisited where you were stationed?
Big pardon?
Have you ever revisited where you were stationed?
Have you ever revisited the places you were stationed?
Have you gone back to Europe? Holland?
Oh, yes. I went back once to England because we had a brother. My brother-in-law was in the forces, and he'd met a girlfriend in Scotland, I believe it was, and it happened to be my wife's brother. So we had a chance to go back to England, so we went there to see her mostly. By that time, we found out that her brother was killed too. So that was a part of it there. Now, England is England, and we were there, but that was before I went to Africa. Was that right? No.
You went to Holland to visit Holland.
Yeah. After that, that's true, because I would come from Africa to Sicily, and then Italy, and then France. And then I went up and then over to England then. But when I out of the forces, then at that time we found out where he was, so we went in there and we found out he'd passed away. I was talking about my brother-in-law at that time. See, there goes my mind again. I can't think fast enough to keep up with what I'm talking about.
Tell them about your visits back to Holland.
Back to my visits back to Holland, it's the whole pride of my life. It's a big part of my life. You children, I don't think you've been there yet, have you? Well, I hope you do go. Believe me. Don't put it off. Go. They're the grandest people that God ever gave breath to. Believe me. They don't care. As long as you're a Canadian, you're A1 as far as they're concerned. And I mean it. They don't fool around. They've had me now pretty close to almost 15 times I've been over since the war. And it's 2 weeks every time, and I've stayed with the same people every time I've been there. And that's how well they are there. Chester didn't believe, this my oldest boy here, he never believed what I've told him after I made my trips, till he went over last year. The whole family showed up, and I never even knew they were coming. I turned around, and here they all are, the 4 boys and the 4 girls. Now, you tell them about the surprise. I didn't get. I wasn't the only one. The Dutch people knew they were coming. I didn't. Had the last believer, the last one to know. But that's the way it goes over there. And people, just to say that you're a Canadian is all that's necessary. And I'm assure you, if you ever get a chance, don't turn it down. Go. As long as they find out you're a Canadian, you're away. I mean it. That's so hardly I do mean it very much so. Am I right, Chester?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Did you keep in touch with your family and friends during the war?
Beg pardon?
Did you keep in touch with your family and friends when you were in war?
I can't quite hear you, sweetheart.
Did you keep in touch with your family and friends?
Well, I did the best I can with the mail. That's all I did. I had a chance once to use the phone. They don't let you do it that often, but I had to phone my dad or mother of some sort, but for some reason. But I never did get through clear. But 90% of the time you had to do that by mail. You couldn't do it any other way. And then they censored your mail, so you never knew whether your mail got through or got stopped. If it got stopped, you'd get it back with somebody written a letter with it telling you why it was stopped. But that didn't happen to me. I was very fortunate. Everything I told them, I guess it went through the clearance. But the only thing we use is mail, period. Yes, son.
Did you get awarded any medals? And what?
Well, just well, this is all the Legion stuff here. This is the stuff here that I'm proud of here because this tells just the countries I was in. That's all. I have nothing no valor. I mean, I didn't get any medals for doing something great or anything like that. But I was quite happy just to receive these.
What was your job after the war?
My job after the war, I was a fireman for quite a while in Malton, Ontario, for about 13 or 14 years with A.V. Rowe Company, building aircraft there. And then, that was before the war, of course. No, after the war. Yeah, after the war. And then I got into come on. I got into the airport itself, right there in Malton, and that's what I finished off there. And then we got married and we moved to Midland. Then, is that right, Chester?
And you worked with the Dominion Transport.
Yeah, and back here, then I was driving for Simmons Transport. Pretty good many years for them. And I took my retirement. 18 years, I believe. Now, I could be wrong there. But I've been in Midland since I was a little gaffer. My dad and mother used to camp right up here in Little Lake Park. And I swam in this lake for years down here below. And I still think it's a great country, believe me, I do. And don't let anybody fool you that isn't. There's a few jokers that's running the town now, but that's beside the point. I was on the council there for pretty close to 5 years myself. And it taught me an awful big lesson, believe me. Midland's got a big heart, too. And the people are great here, honestly. Anything else now?
What are your thoughts on the Cycle Liberation Tour that's in your name?
I'll have to ask you to say that again.
What are your thoughts on the Cycle Liberation Tour that's in your name?
What was that?
Bicycle tour in 2013. What are your thoughts on that honor bestowed upon you?
The honor of being able to do it is going to be something. I'm hoping, against hope, that my health lets me do it. Chester here, he organized the big celebration here in Midland, and I never knew a thing about it. And they flopped it on me. It was I filled up and I cried and everything else, and then to top it all off, he gets a couple of people from Holland to finish it off. And the two of the grandest people you ever saw were there. And the young boy himself, I met him first in school, because when I go over there to visit every other year, they always have a school waiting for me over there. As soon as I arrive, they make an appointment, make sure that I go to that school, talk to the children and what have you. 90% of these children already learn English. That's why they let me there. And then it happens to be this young lad, happens to be one of the boys that I was talking to, and his father is the big shot of Holland at that time. Now, what position he has now with the Dutch people, I have no idea. And his dad, the boy's dad, well, like the boy's grandfather, is the one that originally met me when I first went to Holland. And he's a grand guy himself, and it's unbelievable. So after one of the years we were there to see us off, they give us a great big dinner, and I mean a big one. Everybody that has people like ours over there visiting, and we're staying with them, all them people come as well to this big night to say goodbye. We're going home. So this fellow was the big boy that came with Chester, got him this time. It's his father came to me right in front of the dance floor. There's got to be 150 to 200 people there. They're dancing and having a good time. They get me in front of them all. Mr. Graham, how'd you like that supper? I said, sir, I said, it couldn't have been better. It was all Canadian style, barbecue, the whole thing. But I said, you're lacking one thing. And he says, what can that be? Dessert. Over in Holland, they don't give you dessert over there because they give it to you at 9 o'clock at night before you're ready to go to bed. I never knew that, never give it a thought. He says, in other words then, Mr. Graham, the only thing lacking is dessert. And I says, that's right, sir. I apologize very much, but you asked me, and I told you. 20 minutes later, the dance quit. Mr. Graham, would you kindly come to the center of the floor? Mary says, now, my wife says, now what's happened? What are they doing now? They got me out in the center of that floor, and I'll never forget that as long as I live. Mr. Graham, I understand we forgot your dessert. I says, that's right. Because over in Canada, I said, we finish a meal, and the last thing you get is a dessert. Everybody clapped, of course. All of a sudden, he come out onto the main dancing floor you ever saw in your life with the largest ice cream cone you ever dreamed of. But they've been put it in a cone, honestly. That thing had to be that big around and that high. Now he says, here's your dessert, enjoy it. Well, what am I going to do? Everybody in the place was laughing at me and, take it easy, Frank, and all this, and talking in Dutch English, and I started laughing. But anyway, that's one of the stories I tell everybody at schools, things like that. But put yourself in my position, the biggest ice cream you ever saw in your life, like this, I'm into it. But anyway, I enjoyed it very much so. Now,
what do you think about the war that's going on in Afghanistan?
that's like I wrote down here myself. I have no idea why, and as far as I'm concerned, it's useless. All to do is causing death. Don't need that. We have enough. This world is breaking up fast enough as it is. But I find out today they got somebody else over the news today too. They don't know whether he's officially got him yet or not, but got him too. So that to be it. I have no necessary. I disagree with it 100%. I can't agree with it at all. Okay, son?
Yeah.
Good.
Have you ever lived somewhere else other than Midland?
Ever lived any place else but Midland? No. I've been here for years. I delivered milk here. For heaven's sake, Armstrong's Dairy for, 5 or 6 years anyway. Yes, ma'am.
Did you find it difficult to adjust to the civilian life once you returned from the war?
I did for, 4 or 5 weeks. They give me my job back that I left before the war. That was the agreement. When I sign up, I get the same job back again. That part of it did actually happen. But me, I wasn't married at that particular time, and I decided I still liked the fire department. My dad was a fireman, so I tried to get on the Toronto Fire Department. I couldn't. So they switched me into Malton, and that's how I worked for the Avro company over there in Malton. But otherwise, I didn't mind it at all. I didn't have a tough time, but I was one of the fortunate ones. I had a job right away. So that was the agreement. When I join up, I get my job back if I'm able. And I was. Yes, son.
Can you describe some of your memories from when you were a child in school?
That was something that we were talking over this here a couple of days ago, because I got a sheet like you did, trying to figure this out. And, you go back 75 years, and it's pretty tough for me, believe me. I listen to people tell me what I did, what I didn't do, and, things like that. It makes it very confusing, but I'm not sorry in a lot of cases because I met my wife after that, of course, and then, but the thing is, I don't know, that's life. I don't know what else I can say. You do get good things, you get bad things. But for heaven's sake, stay in school. Don't leave it till you have to. That's what I'm asking, is don't do it, because you've got to have the education or you won't even survive. Okay?
What are some of your favorite teenage memories? And what are some of your favorite memories as a teenager?
Changes. Well, I don't know, that's what... Which one is that? What number is that?
14.
14. Well, the best ones I can think of are the Teen Town Dance here in town. And that's when my dad was alive, of course. He brought me up here every year for summer holidays, and I got used to it. But and my brothers, of course, were there too then at that time. But it's something that you try and think about it, and you're trying to get it together right, and you can't do it because you can't think that back that far. I was an average child. I wasn't. I didn't emphasize on anything too big. But like I said before, make sure you stay in school. That's the answer. Don't leave till you have to. Yes.
When did you move to Midland?
When? I got that written out so I'd forget it for sure. 1953. I was here before then, but I moved up here to stay. And then a truck driver and fire department and so on here.
What type of activities or events do you remember most about your time in Midland?
Well, actually speaking, I was on the town council for about 5 years. And then I was joined the Legion, of course. I've had more to do with the Legion till latter years. And then then I had a little bit to do with the Midland Indian Baseball Club. I was with them for how long, Chester?
20 years.
And helped out what I could do in that respect. Had 5 years on council. That's a big job in itself. But I like Midland. I like it very much. Believe me, it's not a monstrous town, but they've got a lot of good people in it yet. I'm not saying that because you're here. Don't get me wrong. Good people. I mean, good people. You found out the staff of this building alone. These people are unreal. And they keep changing, but they get good ones back, too. Anything else I can help you with?
What advice do you have for youth of today? What advice do you have for the youth of today?
Advice for children? Is that 18?
Yeah.
Sure to get your education, obey the rules of leaving and belong age to groups who make a difference. In other words, join the good groups. I'm retired out of 2 of them now myself. I'm hoping that my lodge picks up picked up again now. When I joined my lodge, we had 188 people. We've got 8 left. They're dying off, but people are not joining up the regular things now at all. They don't seem to want to do it. They want to be tied. Chester here belonging to the Legion, pretty heavy up in there now. And I had more positions in the Legion for a long, long time, but I'm getting too old now and I've got to relax. Take it easy. Chester's carry on for me. Is there anything else now I can help you with? I don't want to think, I hope you got something out of what I'm talking about. Because, you know, the people think that you're in the service all right, but they don't realize that when you go back after the service, what are you going to do and things like that. I did it, and go a month without a bath and you find out a big difference, believe me. I got pictures here. I'm going to let you see them, if it's all right with you things. You know, and this is ones that I didn't take these pictures. I happened to be in Sunnybrook Hospital visiting another chap, and I come across one of my buddies with me overseas, and he shook my hand, of course, and he said, Frank, he says, I got pictures at home. I'll get my wife to bring them in. And he said, something that you will understand, but a lot of people don't understand them. And he said, this is ones where you're, this is all in Italy, and you'll see people giving us our bath and all that kind of stuff in there, and in the river, and that's the only place we had a bath. Yeah. And you see the family running around there, 2 or 3 people. That's the one we put them out of their house to have what we needed for our activity. And then we looked after them after that, though. They came right back to the house, and we never destroyed the house at all. Them. You see the first Jeep that got into town there, going up the middle of the town? See, those towns there, all they had was mules in them days, and that's the first Jeep that ever went up there. It's wide enough, you see, it can make it. Show the photographer, son. He hasn't seen them.
I can take some shots of them when we're finished so that you guys can
Yeah.
look at them while you speak, and then when we're done, I'll just take them.
Yeah.
Now that you've done the interview, has it brought up anything that you'd like to know more about? That you'd like to ask that's not necessarily written on your sheet?
How old were you when you joined the Army?
Now you got me thinking. I don't know whether I got it written down or not. Can you remember Chester?
22?
Hey?
22.
22. You couldn't get in any sooner them days. I got in, when I did so, I get in what I wanted before they called me. If they called you, you went where they put you. I didn't want that. I wanted something that my dad had. He was in the artillery, that's what I wanted, and that's the way it ended up. I didn't have a horse like he had, of course. But temptation makes you think sometimes, but I stayed with it anyway, and that's where I ended up. They took me to Ottawa to show me the fellow that takes the actual orders from Ottawa. And they send words there at 22 words a minute, and the best I could do was 18. I couldn't get any better than 18. And the only way they could get me to take 18 would swear at me with the Morse code. As soon as I got the Morse code and got me pretty good at it, then I swore back. And that's how we learned it. It's a pretty tough thing to say, but that is the truth. You try and drive a motorcycle. Now, I did 19 miles an hour and take words at 22 miles, 22 words a minute, and write the same time driving a motorcycle. I had to do that for almost 2 weeks before I learned both to do it. When I got to England, wrong side of the road, the first thing the sergeant said, you go on the other side. And I didn't realize I was doing it, but he said, you're lucky you're still alive, you see, and this is what happens. That's the way it happens. Now, any other questions? Don't be scared.
I'd like to know a little more about your time on council. How did that come about?
Well, I was approached by one of the counselors at that time. He had to retire. He had to retire because he's going to be a fire chief down in Barrie at the time. And he came to me and he said, Frank, would you like to be on council? Take my place for maybe a year. I was driving truck. I said, why not? I have to do it sometime. I might as well try it now. He says, fine. So that's how we got on council. From then on, I had to get the public to vote for me. So Mr. Jeffrey is still on council. He took my place. And that's how strong it was. I was spent there pretty close to 5 years I spent on it. It's quite an experience, son, believe me. You get everybody's headaches. Believe me. I don't mind doing it, saying it now, but it's something that I got to enjoy it eventually. I had different mayors than you got now, of course. And it's something that, well, I've done my share, I'll put it that way, and I'm quite happy about it. Any other now? Don't be scared to ask me. My son's not in here now, so.
Is there anything you'd like to tell us that we didn't ask you, that we maybe didn't think of that is important?
Well, what I can think of, I had to go from England and not knowing where they're taking us. Believe me, we never knew. We never knew. It was 18 days on board ship before we got into Africa. Now, 18 days from England to Africa, that's a long trip in itself. I was sick every day. And the captain of the ship, he's only a little wee fella. Oh, he come to me and he says, soldier, he said, you're sick, aren't you? And I said, sir, I've never been sicker in my life. He said, would you do something for me to get you to stop it? I said, you give me anything. He gave me a letter to take downstairs to the cook. I showed him the letter. Sit there, I did. He gave me a bowl of soup and a loaf of bread. And he said, eat. I had to finish that bread and the soup. And he gave me another loaf of bread and another bowl of soup. Eat it. I said, I'm full. No, eat it. So I had to eat that too, and I was never sick another day in my life. The thing was, I wasn't eating. That's what made me sick. And I wasn't the only one. There's a lot of people sick on that ship. It was the roughest sea they've seen in a long, long time. So when I got hit overseas, they put me back on the hospital ship to get me home, and I was the only one that wasn't sick. Because I eat. I knew the secret. So if you get on board ship, eat. Whatever you do, eat. Believe me, you have to get it that way. But
you'd think it would be the other way.
Hey?
I would have thought it would be the other way, not to eat, but I guess.
It is. You have to get your stomach to sit there.
I guess so.
See? Well, it's quite the thing. And then another thing, being a Morse code man like myself, you got to be the runner between the captain of the ship and the boss of the crew, that the men you have. And we got about 2,000 men on board, see. And he said to me, he says, you know, if you don't take it, Mr. Graham. He said, you got to eat. I said, that's true, sir, I do. I know I have to eat. So I eat, all right, and I was never sick. So anyway, the colonel come to me and he says, how about being a runner for the captain to me? I can do that, sir, fine. And he said, another thing too, he said, don't swear. I said, I had to swear in order to know the Morse code. And he laughed a little bit, you know, and I said, I know. So I went up to the captain, and the captain of that ship was not much bigger than you. And he came to me and he says, you take Morse code too? And I said, yes. Did you read the last message? And I handed it to him, because I had to take the messages to give to him. Then you get the light flashing back and forth. But the only thing was, the messages that I got was in code again. So you give it to the captain of the ship. The captain of the ship siphons it again. He goes and reads a book, because that's another secret. I didn't know what the word was, but he did, because he read the book. And it came back to me. He said, have you seen this here? And he pointed to it. It's a microscope from a submarine up above water. I said, I didn't see it. He said, well, it's been there, he said, for 3 days. I'm thinking right along that is German. He said, no, it's English. But the submarine has been our protection underwater. You follow me now? See, and I never knew it, but I'm a signaler. I'm supposed to know it. I took the Morse code all right, telling me that the sub is there. Here he is. He's been following us for 3 days. So the captain of the ship, he says, you're right. But he says, it was in Morse code too. He said, I didn't know what you told me. So I gave him the message from the sub to him. And he said, that's what he come back with. He said, he'd been sitting there, he said, for 3 days, following us. Me thinking it's a German, but it wasn't. See, it was English. It's something that you learn, you know, through the Morse code. Yeah. So when I got overseas and journey in the battles itself, then I could see the use of the Morse code. I'm sorry, son, to keep you awake. But anyway, anything else now, don't hesitate, please.
I think you've had a pretty good interview. It's been really
Well, I hope you got something out of it anyway, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who I was going to meet. I had no idea there was only going to be 3 of you. I figured it was going to be a class and a half, maybe, you know. And another thing, too, I'm going to ask you, just for me. On the 11th of November, you're going to see me at the cenotaph. That's where I'm supposed to be. Don't hesitate to come up and say, hello, Mr. Graham. Please. Honestly, I go along with this. It's something else. I've lost a lot of good buddies. Believe me, I have. And my brother just died, and they just informed me here there's only 3 men left at my regiment. I'm one. There's one man gone. He went about 3 months ago in Barrie. He's gone. And now I find out now I'm one of the last 2 of the regiment. And we had 15 to 1,400 in our regiment when I went overseas. Now why I'm alive, God only knows. But anyway, thanks ever so much, the 3 of us, and you too, sir.
Thank you.
If I can make sure you come and say hello to me at Remembrance Day, if it's proper, I understand the whole school's coming
Was that right?
to it.
Very good.
So if that happens, you get a chance to come back to the Legion after for a drink of pop or something, come and meet me and a few others too. Okay? Good. And bring a couple of pictures with you. Anyway, that's kind of, see, I was up there, but you couldn't get in there with a Jeep, you walk. That's Mount Etna. But it's something that these people here is the ones we evicted out of the houses to take over. And they're right beside their property. He gave me the biggest chicken dinner before we moved up the front again. We had to close his house. And he said, he come to me and he says, Galante. I says, chicken, Galante. So Italian in Galante is chicken. And I didn't know this, of course, till I learned it. So he gave us a meal. There was 6 of us, the sergeant and 5 of us. He gave us a chicken dinner you ever eat. So after it was over, I asked him where he got the chicken. So he took me out and showed me out of a tree. And it wasn't chicken. What do you think it was? Eh?
Some sort of bird.
Hey?
Some sort of bird. A type of bird.
Yeah, what kind of bird do you think it was? He was, he tried his best. We never damaged his house at all. We fed them for 3 days. They had nothing to eat. So what do you think it was? If Galante in Italian is chicken. But it wasn't chicken he fed us. I know it's tough, but if I'm going to tell you what it was, don't think I'm not. Because I don't want you to think that I'm pulling a leg or anything.
Goose or something? Or
Hey?
I don't know.
You don't know. Well, it happened to be blackbirds. Now, I had 2. I eat 2 of them. And he showed me how he caught them. They sat in this tree. So he got a big net out, put it up on beside the next tree, and chased the blackbirds from that tree into the net. And they broke their necks, you see, and killed them, and down they fell. Then they plucked them and gave it to Mama, and she baked them. That's what it was. Blackbirds, not chicken at all. But the similarity as chicken, see, that was the idea. Now, I haven't had a good Italian to talk to the people that's Italian for a long, long time, but I learned an awful lot, which you had to learn. If you didn't learn, you didn't get anywhere over there. And the sergeant who was in charge of us, he's dead and gone now too, and he said, Frank, we're going to have to do something, but we can't damage the house. I said, fine. So we just got a floor and just down on the beds, and then I had to get on the radio. So we made contact with headquarters, and one of the headquarters guy was on it. So I have to, my job was to, when the guns were going to start to fire, we were like 8 miles ahead of them, where the officers were. We're in no man's land, and we had to tell them when the guns were going to start, because they fired the guns, went over top of us, and I happened to mention it over the radio. I'm so glad of that. And the officer come back, and he said, what do you mean by that, Gunner? I said, they're not dropping here. Oh, do you think I didn't get on the orders? I got into hell more than enough over that. And I was glad it was going back there, when not with us up here, you know, type of thing. But I should have known better, I guess, but I didn't care. In those days, you don't. Want to thank you very, very much, the three of you. But make sure you come and see me on the 11th. And now I'm told I have to stand and take the salute over in Holland now. I'm going to be so proud of that. That's if I can make it. I've been to the doctor already and told him. He said, Frank, I'm going to tell you something right now. It's not going to be as easy as you think. But he says, you're going to do the best you can. That's all you can. And he's going to be blowing the bag. He blows the pipes, by the way, in our band at the Legion. And one more thing I'm going to tell you. If I catch you standing at attention, he says, I'm going to quit blowing and coming over and give you the devil. Because he said, I'll be able to get you to stop it. You can't do it no more. He says, you're that age now, you can't. Well, I said, what am I supposed to do? Sit. You've done your tension. Sit now for a change. So what are you going to do? I know we can giggle about it and laugh, sure. But try it, son, sometime. I'm paying homage to the buddies I've lost. I've lost a lot of people. I know. But I'm going to do the best I can. I can't come to attention much more. That'll be it. I've been in this room so many times, it's, you know, thanks to Buddy Boy at the front. Look at this. I've got a picture in my wallet of 3 nurses that helped me quite a bit. And I'm going to take a look at it, let you see it, so that I'm not lying to you. No, they can't do with that one. It's got to be in here. Yeah. There's the 3 nurses there that I had in Holland. The one in the smallest one there, she looked after me. And I don't know why to this day I said it. When I come out of an operation, one of my first ones, that's the first thing I saw was her. I says, boy, oh boy, what a good thing to wake up beside. And she never forgot that. She said goodbye to me. I was going to England then to get my boat, which was the Lord Nelson, to get me home. And she said goodbye to me going out of the hospital. And I says, boy, oh boy, would I ever love to wake up to beside you the rest of my life. You should have heard her. And the nurses, the other 2, said, what did he say to you? Would she ever love to wake up beside me the rest of my life? That's life. I never forgot that. The reason I carry the picture, because I've already run into one of them, believe it or not, and she lives in British Columbia. I met her at a not a social, but an opening of the Legion again, and she happened to be in it. And she looked at me and I looked at her. She says, you are Frank, aren't you? And I says, I am. There you are. You never know when you're going to run into them, believe me. But that's a little bit on the soft side of it. But I'm going to be at another one of the big schools, not schools, but the stores here in town again for a couple hours this afternoon to meet people. So anyway, I want to thank you again. I hope I did you some benefit. But if you do think of any questions when you see me on November the 11th, ask me again. if I can remember. So thanks ever so much for being here. Oh, I'm sorry we kept you awake. No, I do that, not to be smart, don't get me wrong. I understand it wholeheartedly. But if you do get a chance to go to Holland, don't refuse it. Go. Believe me, you'll never be sorry. They're the grandest people I ever met, and especially in Markelo. There's only 6,300 people there, and I've met them all. They shook my hand so many times to thank me. Okay?
Great. Would it be all right to take a photo of all of you together?
Sure,
I'd like to do that.
absolutely.
Maybe we just.
I hope so, and then give me a picture of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.